Hey guys, what's up? It's Ripe again. In today's video, a bunch of homeowner association officers repeatedly broke into my house to inspect and check the cleanliness. One time they caught me in my boxer shorts and called the police on me, claiming that what I'm wearing is illegal. This HOA is completely out of their minds and I honestly don't know what to do. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the story. And the first one starts like this. So I, 30 male, live alone in a meh house, and working as an engineer, I decided to spoil myself with a nice sports car. It is a 2021 Aston Martin Vantage with manual transmission for those into cars. It has only 2 seats since it is a rear-wheel drive car with a decent amount of power, and I live in Canada. I decided to get a crappy SUV, an old Ford Escape, to use during the winter. During the summer, I use my sports car daily and just leave my winter beater getting dusty. One of my neighbors, mid-20s female, recently got divorced and became a single mom. Her financial situation got bad and her ex-husband kept their car. Seeing her struggle, I let her use my winter beater during the summer. She was thrilled and thankful. One day of summer, winter beater broke down. Not a surprise really, my neighbor was really sad, and when we took it to the mechanic, the repair would cost more than the car, so it was not worth it. My sports car takes most of my money anyways. I live with not too many things nor luxuries except my car, and I'm not exactly rich. So I decided to junk it and winterize my sports car. My neighbor did not like this decision. I said that I would not be paying to repair it, and sadly she would not have a car anymore. She said she had a trip planned with her kids and asked me for my sports car. I of course refused it, mentioned that she wouldn't be able to drive it, too much power, manual transmission, RWD, and it was also a 2-seater, which would not fit her kids anyway. I also don't let anyone else drive it, it's my baby, let alone for a vacation without me. She then stormed back to her house and I simply donated my winter beater to a charity. She posted a long rant in a Facebook group of our neighborhood saying that I am a bad neighbor and how I denied her kids a vacation. I replied it, mentioning that she doesn't even know how to drive a manual car, it is ridiculously dangerous for someone inexperienced to drive it, and it is a 2-seater. I told her she would be an irresponsible mom if she just put both her kids in the passenger seat. Not only dumb and illegal, but dangerous, and that I have no responsibility in giving my car for 2 weeks for her to go on a trip no matter the car. It was a massive reply. I also told her I was disappointed with her way of thinking for assuming I would just provide a car for her when I have nothing to do with her life. The winter beater was a favor and she was acting entitled for thinking I would provide my Vantage for her. Everyone else sided with me and roasted her brutally. Lots of neighbors congratulated me for my decision, but some told me that I went too far and should have just ignored her or just said, please remember it's a 2-seater, your kids won't fit. A few friends and relatives also told me it was an a-hole move to do this and that I don't understand the struggles of being a single mom. Am I the jerk for exposing her in such an aggressive manner? And Ripe Stars, I would definitely say that OP was not the a-hole, and even if you are a single mom, you are not entitled to your neighbor's sports car. Anyway, people on Reddit said, not the a-hole, she was aggressive and instigated by posting. You responded and shut it down. Sometimes people need a dose of the medicine they are trying to dish out. Comment number 2, not at all. You went way past being a good neighbor by allowing her to use the old beater, but to hand over the keys to a Vantage? Mate, nobody deserves that, not the a-hole. You informed her privately why you refused a request and she went public. You replied that's fair, she opened the gate, you walked through it. And now we will read the title story, and it is titled HOA breaks into my house to check cleanliness and finds me for wearing boxer shorts. So I have lived in an HOA for a pretty long time, but recently things ended up changing drastically. What essentially happened was the old HOA president retired and chose to step down, and with him almost the entire board stepped down. Taking over was a totally different group of people that had a different mindset about how things should be run and how rules should be interpreted. While the old HOA was laid back, this new one was strict and loved handing out fines and telling people everything they were doing was wrong. I think they were a little drunk on power in a way and nothing to keep them in check. The one rule they were enforcing, or attempting to at least, was that the inside of people's homes had to be just as up to code as the outside of their house. So this was something nobody thought made sense, because who was gonna see the inside of our homes? The whole point of a house having walls is to let people keep the way they are living private from prying eyes. Okay, I mean shelter is the main reason for walls, but still. You might be wondering how the HOA would even enforce or hand out fines for something like that, and the answer is extremely dumb. They wanted to go inside people's homes to do inspections. As you can imagine, nobody was gonna voluntarily let these people into their homes to just look around at random. It was a huge safety concern for one thing, and for another, it was their private property. Their HOA still tried though, and had personally come to my house and rang on the bell 3 separate occasions, trying to come in for a surprise visit. Each time they were ignored or rejected flat out, with me saying I was not inviting them into my home and to please leave. I was never downright rude, but looking back, I wish I had been a bit meaner knowing what they would do next. They even tried setting up scheduled visits, thinking that maybe the surprise element was the problem. But again, I told them I was never letting them come into my home. The next logical step for them was to somehow get a key made for my door and to just let themselves in one day. I'll admit that there were not any signs of me being home that day, but I was just hanging around in nothing but my boxer shorts. It was summer and my day off, so I just planned to lounge around and not even bother putting on pants to stay nice and cool. When my door unlocked and was opened, I was actually scared because nobody else had a key to my house and I did not do things like hide a key under the mat. I jumped off the couch complete with my bowl of potato chips going flying and getting ready for some kind of robber. That was when the HOA members walked in while holding notepads and cameras. I have no idea what kind of inspection they were planning on doing, but it never happened once they saw me in my boxers and started screaming. Not like screaming at me, but just noise screaming like I was not supposed to be in my own home. HOA guys, what the hell are you doing not wearing any clothing? Me, what are you doing in my house? Get the F out of here now. HOA, we came for an inspection, but clearly we have bigger issues to deal with here. Are you aware that public indecency is a crime? Additionally, in this HOA you are violating the dress code, which is a serious fine. Me, have you forgotten that this is my house? You just broke into it and now want to give me a fine? HOA, we are calling the police for this crime. You should be ashamed. They really did call the cops that I was exposing myself and that they had come over right away before any children saw me. Of course, when the police got to the house and came inside, I was just standing there, still in my boxers. Now might be a good time to clarify that I'm a guy, so being just in boxers meant that nothing was being exposed to anybody. Yet they were acting as if I was running in front of a school butt naked with everything hanging out and screaming to get attention. Of course, the police were a tad confused and had some questions for each of us. They too were under the impression that I was doing this outside, but both stories matched that I had not left the house in my boxers. Also, it took a while to make it clear to everybody that this was actually my house, and I did not just break in somewhere without clothes. With police going in and out, this point had to be made a few times, and each time the officers just seemed confused as to why they were actually there. The HOA guys explained that they had come for an inspection and I was just indecent, which is against the law and their policy. The police explained that I was not naked and never left my house, so there really was not any criminal problems, and if it was an HOA issue, they had to take it up with me or a lawyer. But then one officer had the best question of the day. Officer, sir, I just want to ask you why you let them in while just wearing your boxers. It's not illegal, I just know most people would have thrown something on before answering their door. Me, actually, I wanted to bring this up before you left. I never let these people into my home. In fact, I told them several times that they were not welcome and not allowed to come in and do an illegal inspection of my home. They actually used a key to my house that I did not provide for them and can only assume they got less than legally. The HOA members were squirming, thinking that I was gonna let the police go without telling them that part. I saved it because I wanted the HOA to talk as much as possible to the police before I brought it up in order to let them dig a hole they could not lie themselves out of. It worked, and the police questioned how they obtained a key to my home. I was expecting them to lie, but it turns out they forged papers of ownership, and one day when I was at work had a locksmith buddy come and check out my lock to make a key for it. They were already in trouble, but I was asked if I wanted to press charges for breaking and entering. I told them I did, and they were all arrested right there in my living room. I wish I could look back on it as some amazing moment, but all I can think about is how many people saw me that day in my boxers posters covered in cartoon characters. The police were obviously not happy about what had happened, and an investigation got done into the HOA and this home inspection crap they were doing. They were found to have keys to multiple homes and were facing some pretty serious charges because of it. Their entire premise of controlling the inside of people's homes was found to be a way outside of HOA jurisdiction as well, and could even be seen as trying to impede on people's rights. They obviously ended up in huge trouble, and for the second time, the entire HOA pretty much had to get changed out for a new one. The current HOA seems to be too scared to do anything after that whole fiasco, and I kind of forget that I'm actually in an HOA. At least I don't need to worry about this group breaking into my house on my day off anymore. And the next one is titled Revenge on Dumb Patient. So I work in a busy eye clinic, and I saw that a patient named Tyler was marked as waiting, so I marked the chart as taken, saw what he was here for, and checked that he was the only Tyler in the waiting room. My usual routine. It's a long walk to the waiting room, so I don't even bother trying to memorize the last names anymore. I usually forget or butcher them by the time I get to the front. The patients have a sheet that are very specific to the doctor they are seeing. Has their name, DOB, MRN, doctor's name, and the appointment time. I've never taken the wrong patient back, even when there were several patients with the same name I called. Well, anyways, I get to the waiting room call for Tyler while standing at the door about 30 feet from the waiting chairs. There's no movement from anyone. The waiting room is packed with at least 30 people. I again call 2 times, and finally a guy on the phone says, "What's the last name?" I ask if his name is Tyler, and the dude again asks, "What's the last name?" I honestly don't know, but like I said, he's the only Tyler there. I tell him to just come on back, and he asks again what's the last name, remaining seated, not giving me his paper. I tell him it's a HIPAA violation for me to announce full names, which honestly I'm not sure if it is, but I know that I'm supposed to limit PHI as much as possible, and there was no reason to announce his full name to 30 people, and again, I don't know the last name because I've never needed to know it before opening the chart again. I tell him that it looks like you're the only Tyler here, come on back and I'll check your paper. But nope, he was not having it. As an aside, I would totally understand not wanting to get up for no reason if he was elderly, but the man was in his 30s. Finally, I just crossed the extra 30 feet and I literally have to take the paper out of his hand. He did not hand it to me and make sure I recognize the full name, appointment time, doc, etc. It's literally not possible that it is the wrong Tyler. I say, "Yep, you're Tyler." All the way back to the exam room, this guy is absolutely fuming. I explained to him that he was the only Tyler in the waiting room, but if he was not, all he had to do was promptly hand me his sheet so I could confirm he was the right guy. I tell him it's never been a problem before, and surely he has seen that everyone else just gets up and walks to the door to the back, hands their sheet over, and we continue to a room. I tried to make small talk to shift the mood on the way to the exam room. He's not taking it, not calming down one bit. He is just absolutely fuming for what? So we get to an exam room, and finally, after this guy had been huffing and making comments under his breath the whole walk, I tell him to sit in the black chair. He sits in one of the guest chairs that are red. I repeat myself and he huffily moves. Like a toddler huffing and puffing when they are mad. I ask him how his vision is doing and he says it's the same as last time. I ask him if he has X symptoms and he huffs and says everything is the same as last time. I ask him again because it will take 5 to 6 minutes to look through his chart to open the right encounter and then the note and then the detailed report, scroll through 6 pages to the bottom, etc. versus the 10 seconds for him to just answer me. At that point, it has taken twice as long to get this guy in the right chair and to get through the first 4 questions that I usually get answered before I even log into the computer. I tell him that we would be halfway done already if he just cooperated. The guy gets huffed and puffed again and asks to see someone else. The magic words. I tell him that's a great idea with a huge smile under my mask. Then leave the room and waste about 20 minutes deleting all my input from his chart. Then I ask the slowest coworker possible, literally struggles to pry her eyes from her phone to look at the schedule, to take him. She always takes patience and sits on her phone forever so that she ends up taking less patience throughout the day. She won't take crap from anybody. She's the biggest witch in the office, to be honest. I could not have found a meaner, set in her way stubborn, quick to anger person to set on him. I tell her there's no rush, the doctor is behind anyways. And by the time she goes in, it's been 15 minutes since I left him in the room. She literally had to ask the exact same questions I did, so not sure why he thought it would be any different. I then took a different patient who was a compliant sweetheart and was done before the coworker went in with Tyler. Guy checked in at 1 PM and did not leave until 4. Hopefully the extra 50 minutes in time out gave him time to calm down from his hissy fit so he was not an ass to everyone else in the office. If he would have just stuck it out with me and played nice and answered my questions, I average about 9 minutes for a full workup. And the next one is titled Revenge on My Old Employer. I worked for this company for a year. I was studying the whole time and made it clear that I'll be leaving at any moment to a new job once I graduated. They were 100% okay with that and even offered to be my reference for the new job. So here comes the new job. My old job refused to be my reference because they were being petty that I was leaving. I ended up quitting and getting the new job without their help. My old job did not invite me to their Christmas party even though they said they would. They've been bad-mouthing me to everyone as well. So I did what I do best. I made multiple fake accounts and wrote bad reviews under their company. I know it is petty, but I almost did not get my new job because of them. They would rather I struggle. So now they can too. And yeah, Ripe Stars, if you have ever quit an awful job and then got revenge on your old employer, I would love to hear that story in the comments. Please feel free to share your personal experiences if you want to. And the next one is titled Entitled Neighbors Want a Cat. Our cat, he has different opinions. Before I begin, I should explain for transparency, I live in the UK in the suburbs of a medium-sized city. We have a large garden and are away from the main road. Our cats free roam and all the cats we have had have done so without issue. They rarely leave the boundaries of our home and garden and even then only go into our nice neighbor's garden. Anyway, on to the story. This story is from about 3 years ago. However, I still remember most of it because the neighbors are still there and frankly, you try and steal my cat? I ain't forgetting. So, a bit of a backstory. My family own 2 cats, Ariel and Vincent. Ariel is pretty much a princess, dainty, and demands to be treated like royalty, but she stays in the house most of the time, except sometimes she wanders around the garden. Vincent, however, is a complete git. He is willing to be pet when it suits him or serves to benefit him, mostly to getting food, and for a time was a wanderer, but not so much now. In around 2016, Vincent went off on a wander. Every so often he would be gone for a couple of days. Fair enough, he is a cat in his prime, he wants to investigate, but then he goes missing for a longer length of time, maybe a week or so. It is pertinent to mention Vincent had a black collar and a sturdy one as well. He was not getting it off on his own. One day though, he comes home with a purple collar on. I think you can tell from here, we did not put it on, someone had been taking him in. So, Dad, I am a live-at-home student, put a new collar on him with a note attached in a little vial giving his name and Vincent's, our address and phone numbers. Vincent went back on the prowl and a few days later returns with another purple collar. So, Dad repeats the process just in case the vial fell off, giving whoever was claiming Vincent a chance to say hi. I think you can guess what happens. So, Dad has a philosophy, if his cat wants to live somewhere it deems better, he will let the cat do that, but not without a fight, especially if the new owners are being a-holes about it. So what else are we to do but pamper that little furball? We give him treats, healthy as well as normal food, allowed him upstairs, the forbidden zone, and generally allowed concessions to the norm. Unfortunately, he gets bored of his lifestyle and buggers off again for 3 months. We occasionally see him as he is evidently being let out and he sees us as a second home, but what is horrible is to see that he is losing weight, I assume because he's being given milk, forcing him to vomit because he is lactose intolerant, and his fur is falling out because he has seriously bad fleas. He is also acting up, begging for food constantly and acting like a bigger douchebag than before. Now, we do what we can, but because Vincent wants to spend as much time as possible with the neighbors, we really cannot do much. If we went to get the cat box out to get him to the vet, he would scarp her, until one day after 3 months we get a call from our vet, who are they worried to see Vincent in the state he is, and that Dad would never let this happen. It turns out that this new owner did not want to deal with him anymore, so they just so happened to say they found him and scarpered after fussing him, and Vincent obviously knowing who they were, Dad being a mature adult paid for the vet bills, really not much, just flea treatment and a checkup. About 2 days later, they knocked on our door to explain themselves. Trust me, I'm as surprised as you are. Turns out the neighbors love cats, and when they found Vincent, they had to have him. But they did not want to pay any vet bills or treatments, so what they did after he started showing signs of neglect was to buy a new kitten and bung Vincent back on that to pay the vet bills, but they love Vincent and he loves them, apparently. So, seemingly through divine intervention, Mr. Vincent walks down our street and Dad notices and says hello to him. The neighbors are going, "Kitty, kitty, kitty," and generally trying to get Vincent's love, but then Vincent immediately ignores them, runs straight through their legs and comes inside our home. 3 years on, Vincent is very nearly a house cat and is a professional sleeper, napper and snoozer, and apart from being a douche, is fine. He has never gone back to the neighbors. He obviously realizes they were killing him and knew he was not wanted after they got the kitten. And yeah, Ripe Stars, as once again being a cat owner myself, I can definitely say that I feel really bad for Vincent and any cat that these neighbors will ever have in their life. Obviously, they are not fit to have any sort of pet. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, I want to ask you for a favor. If you have watched until here, please check out my new channel called The Readers, where I and other voice actors post daily stories that you will very much enjoy. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again tomorrow.